2,000 media activists, journalists, and academics, and lawmakers are gathering here for the next 3 days to discuss ways to improve our nation's media system. The conference comes at a time of massive cutbacks in the news industry and increasing concentration of media ownership.
Community is people want to know, well, how does a trans person know that they're trans? And I like to flip that around and say, well, how do you know what your gender is? And when I do really concrete skills building trainings with folks, I actually have people break up into groups and talk about that. How do you know what your gender is? And many people who will say, I just know. And it's the same thing for transgender people. We know what our gender is, and we're not confused, although that's often the stereotype put onto us. It's really that the folks around us can be confused because we're not matching up with those stereotypes of what a man is or what a woman is.
What a fantastic showing for just one of the sessions that are beginning this remarkable and very important weekend on media democracy in this country. I'm Amy Goodman, host of Democracy Now! I hope you all watch it, listen to it, read it, and send it around. And today we have an illustrious panel to talk about WikiLeaks journalism and modern-day muckraking.
And so there was certainly some competitive jealousy. I think Greg is right that they like to think of themselves as the anointed gatekeepers over the information that the citizenry will learn about, and WikiLeaks had usurped that power, and there was anger over that. But I think the real source of the hostility is the difference between being deferential to political power and being adversarial to it. WikiLeaks, unlike the established media, doesn't maintain the pretense of being adversarial to political power. They are actually adversarial to political power. And the difference is it's not just that that's not how the American media reacts, it's that American journalists, establishment journalists, identify as part of the political structure, as part of the political culture in Washington. So anything that is adversarial to political power, they find and view as an attack on them as well, because they are a part of that culture.
So I pleasure now to introduce to you our host and moderator for this session. You remember him as an MSNBC host and reporter. He's an Emmy Award-winning journalist who will be launching a new investigative journalism site later this spring. His name is David Schuster. Please give him a welcome.
So welcome to the National Conference for Media Reform. It's good to be here. Good to see all of you here in the City View Ballroom. How many of you came from farther away than Boston? Raise your hand. Very impressive. I'm sure everybody's got hands over the overflow. I'd like to start with a couple of logistics. There are going to be cards that are going to be passed around for your questions. There's a lot to talk about today.
The FCC not paying a very good job to media issues related to women because there hasn't been a lot of diversity in terms of the commissioners. And if not, but how do you try to assure that that diversity is maintained?
Well, it's one of our statutory mandates is to promote diversity. We live in a country that is over a third minority right now. People of color own, I think it's 6%, or no, it's less than that. Full power commercial television station is 3.7%, and of radio, it's like 6%. That is not reflected in diversity of the country. We have got to make a commitment to follow through. We have a diversity committee, advisory committee at the FCC, and they've given us over the course of the last few years, I would say 70 or 75 different recommendations of things we can do to enhance the diversity of our media. And I propose that we take one of those recommendations every month, every time we have our monthly FCC meeting for the next year or two, and enact.
Culture does not change because we desire to change it. Culture changes when the organization is transformed. The culture reflects the realities of people working together every day. It's time for us to reorganize our community. It's time for us to reorganize our movement. In fact, it's time for our sector to move from reactive to responsive and strategic, and we can do it. The question is, are we ready?